It's autumn here in Tasmania, and what that means is it's time to secure the firewood for the winter. Now, there's a few things I've learned over the years in relation to firewood in Tasmania and Australia. Our prime supplier of firewood is eucalypt forest, and the most important thing in relation to eucalyptus is that it needs to be dry. And when I say dry, not only dry in terms of sap, bearing in mind that dries only when it's in a whole log for about an inch a year, so the logs that have been cut up here have been on the ground for at least 12 years, meaning that they're totally sap dry. But it also, if you want it to burn really easy, it needs to be also dry in terms of water, and that means it needs to be like this piece of wood. You'll see is really dry. Been in the shed for a whole year, and it will burn really easy. Now, what that means for me as I bring this in is I've got a little job I have to do in regard to my firewood stack to make it work properly. So let's have a look. Now, when I first started putting firewood in here a few years ago, I didn't have it divided into 3 bays like this and just stacked the firewood in. What I found fairly quickly, well, after the first year, was that I hadn't used it all, and the nice dry wood was at the back because I'd used what was in front, as you naturally do, and I wanted to come in with the new lot, and I had to move all that wood that was at the back. So my solution at the time was to create 3 bays. Normally, for most years, we burn 2 of these bays over the winter season. We only burn fires for probably 5 months of the year, and we usually have had this year, this bay here that's been untouched now and has been sitting in the shed for a whole year. And that means that this will be the first bay that I burn this season, because it is beautiful and dry. But this last year, at the end of winter or early spring, we went away for 3 weeks, and it means that I have here a stack of firewood that I would have burnt, but didn't happen because we're away. And now I need to move this, because if I don't move it and come in with the fresh wood in front of here, I'm going to have the inferior wood that has still got some dampness in it in the front, and the dry wood will be at the back. So that means I'm actually going to spend the time and the effort to move this and put it in front here of some that I've been bringing in today before I come in with the next lot. It's a fair bit of effort to do, but it's really good and worthwhile doing, because burning this dry wood means that I don't get a creosote build up in the flue, and it lights really easy, and gives good heat, because if there's any dampness in the wood still, it's going to create steam. The heat is inferior, it's hard to light, so it's worth doing that effort with your firewood. And I certainly recommend this bay system, because it means that you can use one, another, and if there's some left over, it's a much easier system to manage. I have a bit of work to do here in moving this firewood across. Nothing to do but get on with it. While I was doing that, I was remembering the first winter we were here, when I didn't have a shed and had the wood outside in the rain, because we get quite rainy winters here in Tassie, and how bad it was. It was so difficult trying to get fires to light when the wood was damp. Even though you covered it, just couldn't keep it dry in the rain, and you'd be out in the rain trying to split it and bring it in. It's so good having the shed where I can split kindling in here, I can load my wheelbarrow, knowing that I'm dry and the wood's dry. So this is really worthwhile thing to do. Put bays in, keep your wood dry, bring it in early too. I hear often when the rains have started, people out still with chainsaws cutting firewood, and I think, well, if they intend to burn it for this year, they've made a mistake, because it'd be okay if you're keeping it for next year, but it's just going to be damp and it's not going to burn well. So that's the key with eucalyptus: keep it dry. The last trailer load coming in now, and that always feels good when it's the last one. There's one other thing that I've learnt over the years bringing firewood in that I'd like to share with you. When I first started cutting firewood, one of the mistakes that I made was to cut a lot of rounds and stockpile them, and then come back weeks or months later and split them. When I did so, I found not only was it boring to do a lot of splitting all at one time, but also that they were harder to split. The end of the grain over time softens with the weathering, and when you hit it with the blockbuster, it doesn't deliver the same impact down through the block and split as well. So you're putting a lot more force into it to actually try and split the block up. What works for me now, and the technique that I use, is that I only cut into rounds the firewood that I'm able to split at that one time, so that it's freshly cut and immediately split. My usual schedule is that I'll go out and spend maybe 10 to 15 minutes on the chainsaw cutting up rounds, and then spend another 40-45 minutes splitting that up. And that'll give me at least a good trailer load like this or more. Do that once a day. I probably, to fill my stack, have to do that 6 or 8 times. That way, spreading it across 2 or 3 weeks, I don't feel the impact on the body. Though at the end of the time you actually feel a lot fitter. So that's just something to remember. Only cut what you can split at the time, and split it fresh, because you'll get a lot better result. Okay, I can fill this up now, and the firewood season will be at an end, which is always good.